Rethinking Learning and Development, the case for a 3-to-1 experiential learning model. Abstract. The traditional 70-20-10 framework for organizational learning has become outdated, failing to account for advancements in technology, employee learning preferences, and the need for immediate impact. This paper proposes a revised 3-to-1 experiential learning model that better aligns with today's workplace. Grounded in experiential learning theory, the model emphasizes applied, hands-on learning experiences over abstract classroom training, with a 3-to-1 ratio of experiential to formal learning. Industry examples illustrate how the 3-to-1 model is implemented through immersive simulations, action-based coaching, and microlearning reinforcement, enabling employees to directly apply new skills and see tangible business impacts. By transitioning to this more flexible, technology-enabled approach, organizations can enhance learning retention, engagement, and performance in the rapidly evolving modern workplace. For decades, the 70-20-10 framework has dominated conversations around organizational learning and development. The framework suggests that 70% of an employee's learning occurs on the job through hands-on experience. 20% comes from feedback and interactions with others, and 10% is formal learning like classroom-based training. Matsu, 2012. While simple and intuitive, the model fails to account for important advancements in technology, preferences for interactive learning, and expectations of immediate impact. The workplace has changed dramatically since the 70-20-10 rule was established. Unfortunately, many organizational learning strategies have not kept pace. Today I will argue that a revised 3-to-1 experiential learning model better aligns with today's workplace and employee needs. Through a review of relevant literature and industry examples, key advantages of the proposed 3-to-1 model will be explored. Specifically, it will be shown how the model places a greater emphasis on applied, impactful learning experiences versus abstract or passive forms of development. Experiential learning, definitions and theory before examining specifics of the proposed 3-to-1 model. It is important to establish common understanding of experiential learning theory, which serves as its foundation. Experiential learning theory, as established by Kolb, 1984, suggests that knowledge is created through the transformation of experience. Learning occurs through a four-stage cycle: concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. When fully realized, learners actively construct knowledge through experience of the subject matter versus passively receiving information. Kolb, 1984. The case for experiential learning. Substantial research has demonstrated the advantages of experiential learning approaches. Compared to more passive classroom activities, experiential methods have been shown to enhance retention of learning, improve motivation and engagement, and facilitate real-world application of skills. Kane and Kane, 1994. Lewis and Williams, 1994. For the learner, experience provides context that allows abstract concepts to be grounded, interpreted, stored, and retained. Kolb, 1984. Organizations also benefit as employees who have learned through experience show increased innovation and productivity. Kane and Kane, 1994. Given these advantages, most experts suggest workplace learning should be 70 to 90% experiential. Peterson and Hicks, 1996. Lewenstein and Spletzer, 1999. Limitations of the 70-20-10 model. While intuitively appealing, the 70-20-10 framework fails to fully capture how employees want to learn and develop skills today. Key limitations include rigid percentages, obscure reality. Research suggests the actual blend of formal-informal learning and on-off-the-job experiences varies widely by individual and situation. Yamnil and McLean, 2001. Bucker and Corzelius, 2015. Abstract classroom training overvalued. Only 10% allowance for formal learning underestimates the important role that initial training and certification plays in today's regulated workplaces. Social feedback mechanisms unclear. How the 20% social learning actually occurs and its impacts remain poorly defined. Van den Bossche et al. 2010. Tech-enabled learning ignored. Changes like microlearning, augmented reality, virtual, mixed reality and AI are not fully leveraged to enhance experiential learning. Morrison and Wilson. 2019. Gagnon et al. 2021. Impact expectations not addressed. Employees increasingly expect learning to have visible, immediate impact versus abstract understanding. Leonard and Kreider. 2014. Grow, 2012. Introducing the 3-to-1 experiential learning model to address these limitations. A revised 3-to-1 experiential learning model is proposed. For every 1 hour of formal, abstract classroom-type training, employees receive 3 hours of applied, hands-on experiential learning supported by enabling technology. Specifically, the model suggests organizational learning strategies incorporate experiential projects and challenges that allow skills to be practiced in realistic scenarios. Immersive simulations and virtual augmented reality to experience consequences of decisions safely. Action, project-based coaching and mentoring to receive real-time feedback on performance. Microlearning and reinforcement of core concepts through bite-sized, on-demand resources. Peer collaboration on tasks that facilitate social, feedback-based learning. Visible impact assessment through quantification of behavior changes and business outcomes. The model strikes a better balance of abstract conceptual learning versus applied experiences that foster attention, engagement and immediate skill application. A 3-to-1 ratio reflects optimal experiential learning research while ensuring initial training foundations are not overlooked. Most importantly, it aligns with how employees naturally want to develop in today's workplace. Industry examples illustrating the 3-to-1 model in action. The following industry examples demonstrate real-world applications of the 3-to-1 model. Oil and gas operator training classroom HSE procedures, 1 hour. Virtual well drilling simulator, 3 hours. Allowing mistakes without risk. Mentored equipment operation, 3 hours. With expert feedback. Microvideos reinforcing key steps, on demand. Peer groups collaborating on well-designed projects. Pharmaceutical sales representative onboarding product disease. Webinar, 1 hour. Shadowing experienced representatives, 3 hours. On patient calls. Virtual reality detailing practice, 3 hours. With physicians coaching post-customer notes with KPI tracking. Community of practice sharing sales strategies. Hospital healthcare worker resuscitation training. CPR, AED certification class, 1 hour. Simulation mannequin training, 3 hours. Augmented reality code response drills, 3 hours. In hospital setting. Micromodules refreshing techniques. Debriefs with physicians on code response impact. These examples illustrate applied, technology-enabled experiential activities that directly follow and reinforce more passive introductory training. Learners receive feedback, apply skills in safe environments, and can immediately see the impacts of their learning. Key attributes of optimal 3:1 model implementations. Transitioning to a 3-to-1 approach. While the benefits of the 3-to-1 model are clear, transitioning existing learning programs will require deliberate effort. Key recommendations include: assess current blend of activities, use surveys, focus groups, or observations to understand the existing 70-20-10 or other model in use. Involve learners in redesign. Soliciting employee input on preferred approaches leads to higher buy-in and satisfaction. Leverage enabling technologies. Identify simulation, VR, AR, collaborative and microlearning tools to support applied experiences. Develop experiential activities. Design challenging scenarios, observation, feedback mechanisms. Peer collaboration opportunities and protocols for quantifying impact. Pilot new offerings. Test redesigned activities with limited groups, gather metrics on engagement. Retention and outcomes to refine approach. Communicate vision and benefits clearly. Educating all stakeholders on rationale and value of new model fosters understanding and support. Revisit and refine continually. As technology and workplace evolve, learning strategies must also adapt, establish feedback loops. With intentional planning and stakeholder involvement, organizations can successfully transition learning programs to the advantages offered by a 3-to-1 experiential learning approach. Conclusion: in today's environment of constant change, employees are expected to constantly reskill and adapt. Yet outdated models like 70-20-10 continue to guide many organizational learning strategies, failing to leverage technology and misaligning with learner preferences. This paper proposed a revised 3-to-1 experiential learning model that strikes a better balance between formal training foundations and applied experiences supported by enabling tools. Through reviewing literature on experiential learning theory and examining real-world industry examples, advantages of this revised model in better developing employees were demonstrated. By thoughtfully redesigning existing programs around more impactful applied activities measured using outcome metrics, organizations can significantly enhance the learning process, employee engagement, and overall performance. As technology and workplaces continue to evolve rapidly, maintaining learning strategy flexibility will remain critical, but a shift towards a 3-to-1 model offers an important step forward.